Episode 113 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in particular, welcome to my Portuguese-speaking viewers and followers. Yes, we've suddenly having a rash of Portuguese episodes because once again, I'm fortunate enough to be joined by my amigo, as they say in downtown Lisbon, my amigo Brandon Molt. How are you, Brandon?
Hello, everyone. I'm well, thank you, Roland. And how are you today?
I'm very well. I'm very good. Got work this afternoon. Just been taking the dog out for a walk this morning. Got the whole dining room floor covered in mud and fecal remains, but never mind. I've cleaned it up. Now I'm ready to go. Ready to go for another episode. What have we got? What have we got for us today? By the way, this episode we're going to be doing it in the world famous Wham Bam Thank You Land or Wham Bam Thank You Brandon format, perhaps today. Tell the viewers, Brandon, what we have on the menu.
Okay, so on today's menu is a shorter speech. It's just one page that we're going to be doing, and this was Portugal's statement during the Universal Periodic Review, the UPR, of East Timor, so Timor-Leste in Portuguese, East Timor. And it's going to start off with a couple of points, then Portugal makes a couple of recommendations involving some interesting UN vocabulary, and then that is it for today.
Okay, now this is actually a meeting. I was in this meeting. I was assigned to this meeting, and it happened a week ago. So we're looking at about the 26th of January, something like that. I was assigned to it. So I will leave the links. I'll leave the links to this statement. The link that takes you to the audio recordings as usual. I was there. I didn't have to obviously interpret any of the Portuguese. That was my colleagues. But so if for those of you Portuguese speakers who are perhaps not familiar with the UPR, because I don't think we've done a statement, me and Brandon, and the Portuguese ones that we've done about 5 or 6 so far. I don't think we've yet done anything from the Universal Periodic Review. The idea is that it's a big thing, so it's all held within the framework, within the context of the Human Rights Council. And basically the countries, they send sort of big delegations, very generally with senior people. So I think that the Timor delegation here was headed up by the Justice Minister, and they present to the other council members and to the public at large, whoever wants to watch, their achievements, what they have done to implement the various human rights treaties that they are a party to. By the way, just note the language I'm using, okay? This is all useful language for you when you're going into, you Portuguese guys, or anyone, when you're interpreting, that they are a party to, and what they have done, as I say, to deliver on those commitments and obligations that they have assumed. So you'll usually get the opening presentation, which is maybe 10, 15 minutes long, and then you'll have countries then, the rest of the membership that will then come in and comment for anywhere from 1 minute to 1:30, depends how much general interest there is. So the more so like Syria, everyone wanted to talk, so the speaking time was much smaller. Delegations tend to speak very fast under these circumstances, and they'll make recommendations, okay, to the country under review. Again, the country under review, and it's up to the country under review to decide whether to accept those recommendations or to reject them. So they'll generally accept the majority of the recommendations, and then it's up to them in the next review cycle to try and implement those recommendations. And so, as I said, we've got here now East Timor. I've got a feeling that my colleagues, that we call them Timor-Leste. I think their constitutional name, even in English, is Timor-Leste. I have to double check that. But generally, in the news, you tend to hear about East Timor, or you certainly used to hear about East Timor. But I have a feeling that generally they're referred to just as Timor-Leste. They're sort of like, Côte d'Ivoire, Cabo Verde. It's that sort of arrangement. So what we've got here is the Portuguese just making their remarks. Just obviously, there's Timor-Leste would have been once upon a time a Portuguese colony, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct.
So I think there's still a lot of close relationships between the old Lusophone, the Portuguese-speaking nations. So yeah, we've got Portugal just commenting here on Timor-Leste. And yeah, we'll just go through it as usual, see what the interesting vocab is, some interesting references to some of the human rights treaties, the conventions, and let's see if we can learn some new material. So Brandon, we'll just, would you like to just start going through it, and we'll just go sentence by sentence, and then you've highlighted a number of bits of vocab here, and we'll sort of dwell on those as we come along, as we come across them. So over to you, Brandon.
Sounds good. Great. So here we start. President, Portugal extends a warm welcome to the Timor-Leste delegation, and we wish them a very successful UPR.
How do you say, by the way, just a UPR? This is important. For the Portuguese speakers, what's the, how do you actually say UPR?
I stand corrected, but I think it's Exame Periódico Universal. So you might hear UPR.
So it's interesting, actually, just before we go any further, the UPR in how it's, what it is in Portuguese, obviously, Universal Periodic Review. Now, Brandon, it seems that there are two versions of how this is said in Portuguese, apparently. So you have found that the Portuguese say...
Okay, so the Portuguese on the official government website use the term Exame Periódico Universal. And if you compare that to Brazilian websites and also Timor-Leste statements that we've just seen now, the Brazilians use the term at least Revisão Periódica Universal. Okay, I'm doing it in my best Brazilian accent. But just be prepared. When you have Portuguese, you know you have to account for the differences in Portuguese from Brazil and Portuguese from Portugal or Africa or East Timor or Timor-Leste as well. I would break it up into those two branches because the Portuguese from Timor-Leste is much more similar to Portuguese from Portugal than it is to Brazilian Portuguese. So be aware that there are these two terms circulating, but that's not strange in Portuguese. That's actually very normal for there to be two sets for the same term.
So there you go. That's an interesting little quirk there. Okay, so you've said, okay, saúda calorosamente. So what have you put there?
I just, in the original, it looked very plain, so I just wanted to make it more normal and pretend I was speaking to a friend, or I know it's a bit more, the register is a bit higher. Sorry, I've got birds dancing on my roof and it's distracting.
Spring is there.
Okay, so I just wanted to make it sound nicer, so I just said Portugal extends a warm welcome to the delegation.
So the thing is, in these situations, right, these UPRs, you're going to have over 100 delegations probably commenting, saying pretty much the same thing over and over and over again. Okay,
yeah.
So sometimes just for your own sanity, you want to just have something, be able to just tweak what you say from time to time. So sometimes I'll just say wishes a warm welcome to, extends cordial greetings to, is Portugal is pleased to welcome. So it's just good, again, to have a sort of set of a few, especially if you're Portuguese A's, English B's, it's good to have a set of these different expressions to go into English. It just makes you sound a bit more knowledgeable, a bit more professional, rather than just saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on.
We welcome the, let me start again. We welcome Timor-Leste's robust commitment to protecting human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. And we commend the progress it made in recent years, particularly remembering the 20th anniversary of the country's independence next May.
Okay, so you got a couple of words here that are pretty similar, aren't they? Congratulamunos and how do I say this one? Louvamos.
Louvamos.
Louvamos, which are pretty much interchangeable. So again, it's useful to have that sort of set of synonyms. So Brandon here has given us to welcome, to commend. Another one that works well is to applaud. Again, you could you could use it. You could applaud the commitment. You could applaud the progress achieved. You can hail as well. You can hail. So it's always good to have 3 or 4 that you can alternatives that you can draw on. Solid. I'm glad you've changed. I'm glad you haven't gone with a cognate there in English. A solid commit wouldn't sound good. So I think robust, that's a favorite word at the UN, obviously a robust commitment. Again, here though, maybe you want to step back from the idea of solidity, I think, because I think in English, we're more like to talk, we often talk about the unflinching, the unstinting, the steadfast commitment of Timor-Leste. So just an idea for you there. And then, so you've highlighted para cum a proteção.
Yes, we mentioned this in the last one we did. I just find sometimes that para com can be a bit confusing in the moment because it means to with and doesn't really make sense. But in my mind, I just think towards. So Timor-Leste has made a commitment in the direction of or towards protecting human rights. Just be aware of that.
I think to just sounds best, doesn't it? I think in English, we're not like, that's what we would say in English. Yeah. And then now you've also deleted, realizado. I think I agree with.
I just didn't find it to be necessary.
You could, you could use it. You could say achieve. I think achieve the progress achieved in recent years. But again, we commend the progress in recent years. I mean, in English, I think, you don't necessarily have to have the realizado in there. So celebration. I can't remember, what did you say for? Did you say to celebrate or to mark?
I think I said celebrate.
No, so I think again either I think would work, probably to celebrate or to mark the 20th anniversary. Let's scroll down.
All right,
marking the independence, because of course there used to be, in fact, they got their independence from Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken. Timor-Leste. Am I right in saying that?
That's correct. So they were a Portuguese colony until about 1975, I think, like most Portuguese colonies. And then I think they became part of Indonesia, so they weren't really independent. And then they got independence from Indonesia 20 years ago.
Okay. I'll probably put some maps here subsequently, so just to make that a bit clearer for you guys. Let's go on next paragraph then.
All right. So we note with satisfaction new legislation to fight corruption and human trafficking. We also note the creation of the Institute for the Promotion of Children's Rights and the more recent action plans on gender-based violence, or GBV, women, peace and security, persons with disabilities, and children. Okay.
So first thing we've got there, then you say it. How do it? The words, the C with the this is that. How do I pronounce the C with the hook? Oh, it's just comma presto.
Yeah.
Okay. We note with satisfaction. I see that Brandon has gone with there. Again, you had a couple of different ways to say that. So we're pleased to note. Again, is something just an alternative. And then human trafficking. That's combating corruption. Good collocation for you there. So you've gone for defesa.
Yes.
Tell us. Yeah.
So I know the UN often talks about the protection, the promotion of human rights. And so when I see defesa dos direitos, I just immediately think, don't say defense, just go for promotion. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with not going for defesa. Definitely not say the defense of children's rights. The only thing I defend generally is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech tends to be defended. Otherwise, you're right to go for an alternative. The only thing I disagree with you on is I think I'd sooner go with the protection as opposed to promotion.
Okay.
Because it's something that you run across in Spanish as well. Sometimes you hear that they talk about the defensa de derechos, and my inclination would actually be to go more for the protection.
Okay.
Okay, and then go on.
Yeah, violência de género, gender-based violence. I think that there aren't many variations of that term in Portuguese. You might hear violência baseada no género, but I don't think so. I think
okay, like in
this is quite
Spanish, they
standard.
sometimes say that. Right. I think in Spanish they do both. They even sometimes have the
okay.
basada or not. So that's a good acronym to have. Okay, GBV is used a lot. Gender-based violence, and I think they sometimes even talk about SGBV, sexual and gender-based violence. They often come as a package. But yeah, it's an important acronym. Certainly, if you're going. Again, if you're an English B, maybe it's one to recognize if you're going into Portuguese. Then, okay, women, peace and security. That's a very famous concept at the UN, and it's all based around. Do you know what the name of the? Do you know what number the number of the resolution is?
1325.
What's the number of the 1325? And how do you know that number? Is because, it because I talk about it quite?
Because I see numbers in colors, and so 13 is like gold, and 25 is red and blue. So it's quite a. I know that's quite strange to some people, but that's synesthesia, and it's just quite a striking color.
So that's how Brandon remembers it. So I just remember it whenever I see, I look at my watch and it happens to be when it happens to be 1:25 p.m. or 30. I've got a 24-hour clock on my oven clock. So it's 13:25. Oh, I think it's women, peace and security time. It's one of those strange times that just always triggers something in my brain. Another strange time that even today, 25 years after I last watched an episode of it, at 5:35 in the afternoon. So in Britain, when I was growing up, you had the famous soap opera called Neighbours, Australian soap opera. And in Britain, it was always on at 5:35. So you'd get back from school and you'd sit and wait for 5:35. And now, over 20 years since I last watched a bloody episode, I see 5:35, I think, oh, Jesus, Neighbours will be starting now. Anyway, that's
crazy.
There you go. Pessoas com deficiência. Have I pronounced that more or less okay?
Deficiência. So here we were lucky because if you're working from French, you might be tempted to say handicapped.
Yeah, that's very important, yes.
But with this one, you can't, if you said deficient persons, I mean, that just sounds weird. It doesn't sound offensive. Or maybe it does. But I just find it's easy because it starts with a DE, so you might think the disabilities.
Yeah. So persons with disabilities, exactly. So persons with disabilities, very occasionally I've heard them referred to as PWDs. You want to avoid that as a rule, okay? So you don't, persons with disabilities, disabled persons. Another good, so you sort of talk about deficiencies. I don't like that word, to be honest. A useful word, if you're in a meeting to do with persons with disabilities, a very useful word to have in English is impairment, okay?
Okay.
Be it a physical impairment, intellectual impairments. You're skating on very thin ice in this subject. There's quite, there's a lot of political correct jargon that's used, and you need to be very careful. So disability, as I say, impairments is something that you can use a lot as a synonym in that sort of subject matter. Okay, go on.
Okay, so here we need to think of a synonym for saudamos because we've had it already.
Like congratulamos, louvamos.
Yes.
Oh, then we had right. And
so we've had a welcome, we've had commend, and we've noted the satisfaction. So I'm going to use hail this time.
Okay.
Okay, we hailed Timor-Leste's decision to stand for election to the Human Rights Council, and we support their candidacy.
Okay, so you've gone to stand for the council, to run for the Human Rights Council. Okay, and at the UN, okay, so as Brandon said, candidacy. For some reason at the UN, they always talk about candidatures. I don't know if we've mentioned that before. I know in the news, you'll watch the news, it's always talk about candidacy. This isn't a big mistake. It's not a mistake. Okay, just for some reason at the UN they always talk about candidatures for some reason. Minor point. Okay, go on.
Portugal recommends the following to Timor-Leste. Firstly, that Timor-Leste outlaws outright all corporal punishment inflicted upon children, and
Okay, I mean, I think so. He's gone outlaw. I think you could just say explicitly that they explicitly outlaw.
Oh, yes.
I really like that solution that Brandon's gone with for prohíba. I mean, you can say prohibit explicitly, but
Ban.
outlaws is very good. Ban. Yeah, I think outlaw. I try and use outlaw a lot.
I wasn't too sure what preposition to use, if it's preposition, to, you know, where he says os castigos corporais a crianças. So it's corporal punishment for children, to children.
Explicitly outlaw corporal punishment. What do we say in English? Of children, against
of children. Yeah. Okay. And they must. Oh, where we? Okay. And we also recommend that Timor-Leste takes tangible measures to ensure.
Yeah, better than concrete. Take tangible measures, tangible steps.
Tangible measures to ensure that all children, including girls, have access to education, and that they reduce the high levels of infant malnutrition and teenage pregnancy.
Okay. So raparigas, is that, you've highlighted that word?
I have, because in Brazil, it means something else. And I'll let everyone go and do their own research on that.
There you go.
Just be very careful. If you're interpreting from Brazilian Portuguese, it's not a girl. Let's put it that way. If it's in Portuguese from Europe, at least, it's going to be girls. You may also hear menina. And menina would be fine in Brazil as well, but Brazilians will tell you that it means something else in Brazil.
Okay. I'll have to go. We'll all go and look it up.
Yeah.
Got me curious now. And okay, you've highlighted also gravidez adolescente.
Yeah.
Why do I keep shooting? Am I shooting? Do I shoot too much when I go into Portuguese?
Yeah, you do generally, but in this case, you were fine. Adolescente.
Okay. Okay.
I just highlighted it because it's not adolescent pregnancy, as far as I know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah, it's a good, yeah. When you often hear in like other Romance languages, the use of adolescent, adolescente. So I think often in when we go into English, it sounds better, you know, teen. Yeah, to use as the adjective. Talk about teenage. Yeah, that's good. Teen. Maybe you can say teen pregnancy, teenage pregnancy. Also, they talk about. Another word is like juveniles. Is another that you'll hear. You know, juvenile justice, as opposed to adolescent justice when they talk about, you know, kids who are sort of on the wrong side of the law. In that sort of respect, I think in English we talk more about juvenile justice. Okay, go on.
We also recommend that Timor-Leste increases the amount of information available on sexual and reproductive health services. These must be non-discriminatory and suitable for the needs of young people. You can stop there.
Okay.
For now.
All right. Okay, sexual and reproductive healthcare. SR. Yeah. So Brandon highlighted that rightly. There's a concept that you need to be familiar with. So sexual and reproductive health and rights. That's another acronym that you'll come across in this kind of subject matter, in this kind of field, SRHR. Now here, okay, he's talking about sexual and reproductive healthcare services, but okay, so similar to that, you'll hear references to SRHR.
Okay, and then we go on.
And you said, okay, not discriminatory, appropriate. What did you say for adequados?
Suitable.
Suitable for, appropriate for, okay.
Okay. And this includes HIV and other STIs, as well as increasing access to modern family planning methods.
Is that what they talk about, STIs nowadays? See, I remember in my day, back in mine, it was always STDs, sexually transmissible diseases, and they talk more about STIs now.
I think so
as well.
as well.
Okay, so there you go. Sexually transmittable infections. Okay. Another word, again, similar field. One thing they talk a lot about these days is something called NCDs. Do you know what NCDs are?
Non-communicable diseases.
There you go, non-communicable diseases. And it's just interesting. I don't know if, sometimes they talk about, with at least with sexual diseases, infections, they talk about them being transmissible. But these other diseases, they talk about them being communicable, non-communicable. So you just be aware that you will run into both. Just be aware of that.
So just a couple of points on that. The Portuguese for non-communicable diseases is doenças não transmissíveis. And I think if they had been referring to STDs here, they may have gone with doenças sexualmente transmissíveis. And then just also note on when you hear the HIV acronym in Portuguese, remember that H in Portuguese is H. So you might hear VIH, which
there you go. That's
connect very clearly in
that's
your
a
brain.
good point. Sometimes those little things can throw you, can't they? Just the letter in the acronym. Yeah, so especially for us Portuguese, whatever, you Portuguese B going into English A, that sort of thing can trip you up.
Right.
Okay, and then the last recommendation.
Finally, we recommend that Timor-Leste ratifies the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the optional protocol to the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Thank you very much.
Okay, so these are a couple of the important human rights treaties. The older one is you have the International Covenant, okay, on economic, social, cultural rights. The important thing to remember is pacto isn't pact, okay, or compact. Just remember, because again, it's same in French, they call it le pacte international. It's the covenant, specifically the covenant. Sometimes that's referred to as the ICESCR. I don't know if that's any easier to say than the original. Just call it the covenant. But so that's one of the biggies. I am often on meetings of that. The committee on the economic and social cultural rights at the UN. That committee deals with implementation of that covenant. And then the other one is, I think this is the newest of the human rights treaties or conventions. So the CRPD, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So this links back up to what the Portuguese mentioned earlier in the text. Now this one, okay, this is the CRPD. Now, I've actually done a whole episode on that convention, okay, the CRPD. If you ever find yourself in a meeting where you're having to work on these kinds of issues, it might be of help. I'm going to put a link to it just here. Okay, and when you go to it now, it's a bit for you Portuguese. It's aimed at people who have English and Spanish, French, and Russian in their combination. But I think there's going to be a lot of overlap, nevertheless, with Portuguese in the event that you're having to work a meeting like this. And I take you through that convention. I highlight the main vocabulary in it, the main references, the main concepts. Could come in handy if, as I say, you're doing a meeting on that kind of subject matter with disability in general. Okay, that's pretty much that, Brandon. One thing I will say, so Brandon is actually going to, for the next episode, I think, with me and Brandon will do a recording of himself interpreting the actual presentation by Timor-Leste, by the minister. At least maybe not all of it, but certainly a good section of it. And we're going to then break it down together, much in the style as I've done other statements, the longer ones from Spanish, French, and Russian. So that'll be very interesting to look at, to see exactly what the Timor-Lesteans had to say. So, So, guys, if you've enjoyed that, if you've learned some new words, if you've learned some new ideas, please do smash the like button. Please subscribe, keep an eye out for any more. So this is probably going to go out tomorrow, Friday. New Sunday at 6 workshop coming up this Sunday, okay? For if you've got Spanish and French in your combination, please do come along. Write to me in LinkedIn. Give me a thumbs up in the comments there. Send me your email address. That's pretty much it for today. Keep following me in the usual places. Go to the website, theinterpretationstation.com. Subscribe to YouTube channel. Brandon, say goodbye to everyone in your best Portuguese.
Okay. Até mais. Até mais.
Até mais, guys. And all that remains for me to do now is to say that episode 113 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.